And welcome back to another episode of the Stat Sheets podcast. And today it's going to be just me, solo episode, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming baseball season and some of my predictions for each division, including some award winners and who I think will prevail in the World Series coming up this season. I decided to get a little bit of baseball on the channel, meaning opening day for all but two teams is tomorrow. We already know the Dodgers and Padres played in Korea. But without further ado, before we head into our predictions, make sure you guys like the video if you enjoy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're liking some of our content. And make sure you comment down below what some of your predictions are, if you agree with what I'm saying, or you have something else in mind. And always feel free to comment down below what other videos you'd like to see from us next. And we are going to start out in the AL East. Now, I'm going to start out, this is all via baseballamerica.com. I have my own predictions that I'll put up on the screen, but I'm also going to base off of what Baseball America is saying. And we're going to start in the AL East. If you guys aren't aware, I am a Baltimore Orioles fan, and obviously seeing the Orioles at the top, they were the top team in the American League last season. I believe they can get there again, and I do have them at the top. I think they're going to improve slightly. They clearly made a huge jump last year, winning over 100 games. I think they'll do just about the same over 100 games, and I will completely agree with Baseball America's rankings. Like I said, I will compare my rankings up on the screen as well, but this is how I have my 1 through 5. I think the Yankees do make a jump with Juan Soto, but I think the Orioles are just that good. They have a lot of young talent, brought in Corbin Burns, and we'll even take a look at some of their lineup. Obviously Jackson Holiday's not quite in the majors yet. He did make the opening day roster, but they did the same thing with Adley Rutschman. And Adley Rutschman obviously didn't win Rookie of the Year because of that. He came in a little later in the season. But the Orioles have a very solid lineup, a lot of young talent still waiting to come up, like Jackson Holliday. Colton Cowser made the opening day roster. I think they'll be back in contention. And of course, adding Corbin Burns to the rotation as their ace, an ace they've been lacking for years, is crucial. I think the biggest thing with this team is they struggle in the bullpen. They'll be without Felix Bautista this season, but the bullpen's still solid. Brought in Craig Kimbrell. Yennier Cano was very solid last year. And then we look at the Yankees. Obviously, you bring in Juan Soto, a healthy Aaron Judge. This lineup, when healthy, is lethal. Also, a very solid lineup. Garrett Cole's dealt with injuries, but I think for the most part they have a pretty solid squad. I think good enough for second place over the Rays, who won't blow you away by any means, but have a solid team, and they always manage to get there. And rounding out will be the Blue Jays, who have a very solid squad. Would not be surprising if they made the jump to third or second in the AL East, but I don't think they will. And then the Red Sox rounding out the list. Not a big believer in the Red Sox. They don't have much going for them. Trevor Story, finally healthy. Rafael Devers are two best players there. But I completely agree with Baseball America's rankings. And now we're on to the AL Central. And again, looking at the projected standings, pretty much the same. The only difference I have is the Guardians and Tigers. I think the Tigers are going to make a jump, and we'll check out their lineup in a second. But I think the Twins are the best team of a lackluster AL Central, but the Tigers are getting better. The Guardians are always there mid-pack, but the Royals and White Sox need a lot of work to be done, especially the Chicago White Sox. Look at the Twins. Royce Lewis, Byron Buxton, and Carlos Correa. Those three are studs, and they have a solid rotation led by their ace, Pablo Lopez. The Guardians, not a huge believer in this Guardians lineup outside of Jose Ramirez. They have a lot of contact, not a lot of power in this lineup. But the rotation looks solid. Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, two very good pitchers, and they have a solid bullpen led by their closer, Emmanuel Clase. But I want to talk about the Tigers. I think the Tigers will make the jump into that number 2 spot. I think they'll finish just over 500. They have young studs like Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter coming up, Riley Green. A very young lineup, Colt Keith as well. They do have some lackluster players like Javier Baez and Gio Urshela. They're not what they used to be. solid rotation with Tariq Skubal and Kent Maeda. Jack Flaherty can be good. He was slightly all right last season when he got traded to the Orioles, but the Tigers have a solid team. I think they can compete with a wild card spot. I don't think they'll get it. It is a stacked American League, but I think they can make the jump. And then you look at the Kansas City Royals. A lot of young talent, Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, but a lot of older players like Salvi Perez, Hunter Renfroe. They can make a jump. I don't think they will. They have a solid pitcher here in Cole Reagans. But overall, nothing to be hyped about, and especially nothing to be hyped about with the White Sox at Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez. About the only two bright spots, and they really aren't the best defenders. Really just there for bats. So that is the AL Central. Now into the AL West, and I think this is a very competitive lineup between these top three teams, not the Angels. Mariners, Rangers, Astros. I think the Rangers will win the division after Astros snuck up and won it last year. Didn't matter because the Rangers went on to the playoffs and won the whole thing. Rangers, I think, will be the top team here. They have a stud lineup and a lot of young players coming up, and we'll get into that in a second. The Astros are a solid number 2 wildcard team. Mariners, I think, again, they're just playing in a tough division with these top two. Don't think they quite make the playoffs. Could compete for a wild card, though. And rounding out will be the Angels and A's. Completely agree with that. Let's start by looking at the Astros. Very good lineup. Very, very good lineup. Of course, led by their star, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Bregman. Tucker had a breakout season last year. A lot of good bats in here. And a stud rotation. Of course, you got Verlander up there in age. Valdez is very good. Christian Javier is very good. And a solid bullpen led by closer Josh Hader. But I think they will take a step down, and the Texas Rangers will take that step up. Look at, man, this lineup is great. Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, Dolis Garcia, Evan Carter, who I will talk a little bit more about because I do think he will win AL Rookie of the Year. I mean, all the way down to Wyatt Langford, who is yet to be called up as well. This is a very, very good team. I think they will win the AL West. Seattle Mariners, also very good. Julio Rodriguez in contention for the AL MVP. Very good rotation as well with Luis Castillo, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby. And then we go down the Angels. It's just really the Mike Trout show. And if he can't stay healthy, this team is doomed. But when he is healthy, he can at least manage enough for the Angels to be in contention to win games. But I don't think they will even get over 500 this season. But they won't come anywhere close to the Oakland A's, who will, without a doubt, be the worst team in the majors. When they won 50 games last year, they could slightly improve, but they're not winning much. This is a devastating team, and they will be at the bottom of the bottom and hoping for better things to come in the future. Now into the NL East, and just as Baseball America has it, I have the same exact projected standings with the Braves leading the way. I think they'll crack over 100 games won, and the Nationals at the bottom. Nationals are improving after they went all in for their World Series win 2019, have fallen off the map the past couple of years, but I think they're slowly getting back to what they used to be a few years ago, but they're going to be nowhere near what the Atlanta Braves are going to be. The Braves and the Dodgers, as we'll talk about in a little bit, are the class of the National League. Led by Ronald Acuna, got Austin Riley, Matt Olson, stud lineup, and of course you got great pitchers. Brought over Chris Sale, but I think you have your NL Cy Young winner, and again I'll talk about my award winners in a few minutes, but Spencer Strider is that guy. I think he is a favorite for the Cy Young in the NL. Down to the Philadelphia Phillies, it seems like every year they make a run, even though they're not as good as you may seem. Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, 3 great bats. JT Realmuto getting up there in age, but very good lineup, very solid rotation as well. I think they'll be in contention for a wild card spot. I think they will get it. I think they'll be one of the last teams in. Down to the Mets, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, they're 2 bright spots, but they need a lot of work. The rotation's nothing to write home about. They'll be a mid-pack team around 500. The Marlins as well. Brought in Tim Anderson. Nothing flashy They have a weak lineup in terms of power. Jake Berger and Jazz Chisholm really being their big bright spots for power. We know Luis Ariz can bat 300, but outside of that, it's a rough lineup. And rotation, a lot of young guys. Don't think it'll be enough to really push them home to anything near the playoffs. And then down to the Washington Nationals. Yeah, bright spots. Joey Gallo now a National. CJ Abrams, Keibert Ruiz, young catcher. And they have some good young pitching with Josiah Gray, Mackenzie Gore. But still a lot of work to be done with this team. They're at the bottom. I think they are improving. Give them just over 70 wins this season. A lot of names to be looking out for. Dylan Cruz and James Wood, two young studs coming up in their farm system. So we'll see how the Nationals do. I don't think they'll do great this year, but the future looks bright. Now into the NL Central, and it seems like the Central divisions for both the American League and the National League are the weak spots. But looking at Baseball America's predicted standings, I do have the Cubs winning. I have the Brewers over the Reds. I have the Pirates over the Cardinals. I have the Cardinals finishing at the bottom simply because of their aging. While a lot of these teams have a lot of youth, the Cubs brought in new manager this season, Craig Counsell, from the Brewers. Brewers have the number 2 prospect making his debut on opening day. The Reds have, of course, young studs like Elly De La Cruz, and the Pirates have O'Neill Cruz. A lot of young players in the NL Central. It'll be I think this will be the most competitive division in all of baseball. Maybe not in terms of wins, but how close it'll end at season's end. Starting off with the Cubs, brought back Cody Bellinger, Dansby Swanson, 2 great bats. Seiya Suzuki, second year in the big leagues, and a really good couple of young pitchers in Justin Steele and Jameson Taillon. Not even going to try to pronounce this name, but the Cubs have a bright future ahead, and I think with the right manager now and Craig Counsell, I think they can win the division. I don't know how far they'll go, but I think they're division winners. Looking at the Cincinnati Reds, of course, talked about Elly De La Cruz, Matt McLain. Couple of young spots. They're still working on maturing and improving, but I think they will slowly get there. Good, of course, young pitcher in Hunter Green. They could really work on their rotation and their bullpen. But the Reds, I think, will finish in the 3rd spot behind this team, Milwaukee Brewers. William Contreras, one of the better catchers in the league. Christian Yelich, former MVP, not quite what he used to be. Rhys Hoskins as well, Willie Adames. But Jackson Chourio, number 2 prospect in all of baseball behind Jackson Holliday. And with Holliday not making his debut on opening day, Chourio will be that top prospect on opening day to watch for. Solid lineup from the Brewers. I think the biggest weakness is probably their rotation. Brought over D.L. Hall in that Corbin Burns trade. But you got rid of your ace. I don't know if Freddie Peralta is that ace. Wade Miley, Jacob Junis up there in age, but I think they're weak in the pitching. But I still think they can compete for the division win. Have them coming in 2nd. Then we got the Cardinals. I had them finishing dead last. I know they have Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, but this is an aging lineup. Arenado's defense still solid, but his bat's getting worse as he gets up there in age. Same with Paul Goldschmidt, former MVP. And the rotation is decent, but again, up there in age with Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn. Sonny Gray is solid. I think they lack also in relief pitching. I don't see them competing very much. It'll be close. I'm not saying they're going to be far off, but I think they will finish last. I also have this team, the Pittsburgh Pirates, finishing in 4th. Of course, you got that vet, Andrew McCutchen, but it's not really about McCutchen. It's more about O'Neill Cruz, Ke'Bryan Hayes, Ryan Reynolds, Henry Davis. A lot of young players in this lineup. And a young pitching staff. Mitch Keller, Martin Perez. Brought in Aroldis Chapman, also up there in age. But eventually, we will see Paul Skeens, number 1 pick in last year's draft, whether it be this year or next. Pirates have a bright future. I think they will make a slight step up and finish 4th within the NL Central. And last but certainly not least is the NL West. And looking at the projected standings, a little bit different than mine. Completely agree on the Rockies being last and the Dodgers being first. I think the Dodgers will win the most games this season. It's pretty much inevitable when we look at their lineup and their rotation. I think they'll win 106 games this season. But the middle here, I believe the Padres and Giants will both be above the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks in fourth, but I'll get to them in a second. Look at the Dodgers lineup. I mean, it's pretty clear. Bringing in Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy. I mean, this is a great lineup. Then you bring in Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and of course, Shohei Ohtani won't pitch for them this season. And of course, he's got the gambling scandal going on. Regardless, this is a very stacked team, top to bottom. And I think the Dodgers will easily win this division. Then you got the Arizona Diamondbacks. Saw the breakout of Rookie of the Year Corbin Carroll last season. But outside of Corbin Carroll, it's a lackluster lineup for me. You got power, Christian Walker, and Jock Peterson. Tel Marte is a solid bat. And of course, Jordan Lawler could be coming up from the farm system here soon. But then you look at the rotation. Not a big believer in these other four guys outside of Zach Gallen. We know Zach Gallen can throw some heat, but the rest of this rotation, nothing to write home about. So I have the Diamondbacks finishing fourth in the division, while I have the Padres finishing second. Fernando Tatis hopefully plays a full season. Manny Machado, of course, I don't think he will start at third base. I think he's coming off off-season surgery. And another top prospect in Jackson Merrill. It's a very good lineup. Xander Bogaerts getting up there in age as well. Luis Campusano, young catcher, but I think this is a very solid team. Brought in Dylan Cease, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove. Solid pitching. Won't compete with the Dodgers. We already see it here in the opening series. But I think they'll be all right. I think they'll finish second. I do think they'll get a wild card spot, as well as I think the San Francisco Giants will as well. Their lineup needs some work. Not a lot of power in this lineup. You have Matt Chapman, Jorge Soler, but you're missing a stud bat. You brought in Blake Snell, which I think is huge for them. Go along with Logan Webb. But this team needs some more help in their lineup. And speaking of teams that need help in their lineup, you got the Colorado Rockies. Just looking at this lineup up to down, outside of Chris Bryant, Nolan Jones, nothing stands out really, and neither does their rotation. Kyle Freeland can be solid. I guess he's their ace, but yeah, it's a rough team over there in Colorado. They'll finish at the bottom of the NL West, but those are my division winners and how I believe they will rank. Again, I'll put them all throughout the video on the screen so you guys can understand what I'm talking about. And next, we're going to hop into some of my award-winning predictions. Now to jump into the award-winning predictions, the AL MVP, I believe, would be Juan Soto, recently acquired by the New York Yankees. I think it's just, he's a great bat, very patient hitter, and now he's playing in a smaller ballpark. Many project him to hit 30 to 40 home runs. I think he easily cracked 50. Just like Aaron Judge did with 60-plus hitting the American League record a couple years ago. Do I think he'll break that? No, but I think Juan Soto will have around a 300 batting average. He will get on base a ton, and he will hit a ton of home runs. My NL MVP, I believe, would be Mookie Betts, simply because a lot of people think it's going to be Shohei Ohtani. I think Mookie Betts will be the star of that show over there. He has been the leader of the Dodgers the past few seasons, and with Ohtani only being a DH, I think the defense will be coming into play for Mookie Betts. I think he will be the star of the show, with everyone else focusing on Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and all these other guys, Yamamoto coming over there in the rotation. Mookie Betts will still prevail. I believe he will be the NL MVP and lead the Dodgers to the best record in the majors. My Cy Young winners in the American League, I have Corbin Burns, recently acquired by the Baltimore Orioles, my favorite team. And the Orioles finally get an ace. I think this is the year they finally get a Cy Young winner, the first time since Mike Mussina back in the 90s. Corbin Burns is a stud, is a strikeout machine, playing in a tough division. I think he will get a ton of strikeouts. I think he will ultimately become an AL Cy Young winner. And NL Cy Young, I kind of hinted at it earlier, but Spencer Strider of the Braves, I think it's inevitable. He is a stud. I think he's the best pitcher in all of baseball. He will be my NL Cy Young winner. Now for my Rookies of the Year, as much as I love to put Jackson Holliday at AL Rookie of the Year, I think it'll go Evan Carter, simply because Evan Carter is on the Major League roster as of now. Jackson Holliday, whether he comes up in a couple weeks, a month or two, whatever it is, will be a stud, I believe. But Evan Carter, because he's on the roster right now and already had a head start last season, but wasn't eligible for Rookie of the Year last year, is now this year, will become AL Rookie of the Year. And the National League Rookie of the Year will have the number 2 prospect, Jackson Trio of the Milwaukee Brewers. I think the Brewers are a solid team, and I think he can become NL Rookie of the Year. He's got a lot of power. I think he hit upwards of 25, 30 home runs this season. I think that will lead him to NL Rookie of the Year. And my Manager of the Year, 2 managers that I believe are just... Obviously, it's not going to go to, Brandon Hyde of the Orioles like it was last year, because we're expecting them to make jumps. We're expecting them to hit where they're supposed to be. But I think this year to go to A.J. Hinch of the Tigers, who will make that jump. I believe the Tigers come close to winning the AL Central, not quite. And then Craig Counsell of the Cubs. I think the Cubs will win the NL Central. I think just leading those teams into winning directions will get them Manager of the Year. And then for my World Series prediction, I'm an Orioles fan, so I got to put the Orioles in the World Series. I think they will get there after having a dismal playoff run last season, getting swept by the Rangers. I think they'll overcome that and make the World Series, but I don't think they'll win it. I think the LA Dodgers will prevail in 6 games over the Orioles, as much as it would hurt my heart. But the Orioles have a bright, bright future. But what the Dodgers have done, bringing in Shohei Ohtani and company, they're going to be the toughest team to beat. And I think they'll be World Series champions. But that is my predictions for all the divisions, my award winners, and who I think will win the World Series. But that'll be all for now for the Stat Sheets podcast. Let me know if you like these baseball type of videos. With baseball coming out, I will surely produce more and more. And let me know what other content you'd like to see down below. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and always subscribe if you enjoy the content. But until next time, we're out.